Hello my friends, welcome back to another guitar lesson. So today we are going to talk about chord inversions. So one, what is a chord inversion? I like to think about inversions in a way that physics works. When we have a mirror, when we have an object and then we place a mirror in front of me, we see an image. And that image is the exact description. Everything about that image is me. So that's me. It's now like we have two of myself, like two me's, let's say. Let's use that word. There's two of myself. So this is the original. That is a copy, the first copy, but it still says me. So now we have two persons. So I now bring another mirror and we place it at an angle that it reflects, it gets now that image that is in this mirror and it reflects here. So you can see one person, the original, that person, which is the second person, and then another person here. So when we look at triads, that's what we consider. We consider, let's say, three images. So the root position, which is me, the first inversion, which is that first image, and then the second inversion, which is the second image here in the mirror. Then when we consider a tetrad, which is a 4-note chord, we bring in another mirror, put it there, or put it somewhere there to reflect the image that is from here. So we have the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh, because tetrads have 4 notes, the root, the third, fifth, and the seventh. So now we have another image. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what I like to think of when I think about chord inversions. So we're going to use an example of the C major chord. And we're going to use the triad, not the full chord. C, C, E, G. Like we've looked at chord qualities before, triads are 3-note chords. When I start with C, E, G, I'm starting with the original image. So that's the basic triad, C, E, G, is the original image. When I bring in the second mirror and I look at that image from there, I'm starting from that. So I'm changing the position of this. I'm putting it the other side in the mirror. So we look for the other C note, this side, which is here. And then now we start with the third. So this is a third, which is E. E, D, rather E, G, C. So we change the arrangement, but it's still the same chord, C. Then we now get another mirror and reflect this part, and we take it on top. So this E note can be here. And when we remove this one, we remain with that. So we have G. We're now starting with G to C and ending with E. So in that way, we have inverted the C chord twice by first inversion, second inversion. So now we have three chords, three versions of the same chord. We have the root position, we have the first inversion, and then we have the second inversion. So triads have two inversions, three chord qualities: root, first inversion, second inversion, like that. So that applies for the minor chords as well. Say for example, let's try it on the chord A for better understanding, because here we have, this is a minor chord, A minor chord. So A major, A minor, right? But root, first inversion, then second inversion. So it works for both major and minor chords. So let's look at another major chord like G. So you can invert this chord from G, root position, starting with a third, which is B in this case, and then also starting with D. So we have root, third, fifth, root, then fifth, root, third. After learning these inversions, how do I know, or when do I know when to play a certain inversion? So if you're the composer, you decide, of course, according to taste. If you're playing something, coming up with a progression, you can decide how the chords are going to flow. They can all be root position, they can be, first inversion or second inversion. You decide as a composer. But there are some cases when you're not the composer, but you're going to play a certain song, and the composer is specific which chords they want you to play. So for example, if when they want you to play the C chord in root position, they will be specific. They will put C, a straight C chord. When they want you to start with E in the root, let's say they want you to do that, they will indicate the chord and then put a slash and then put the root after the slash. So the chord name comes first, for example, C, and then the inversion comes after the slash. So sometimes we call them over chords or slash chords. So when they want you to play beginning with E or beginning with a third, they will indicate it in the music by putting C over E. When you see that, just know you have to start with E in the bass. Or because this one, like sometimes when we want that low end, we instead of this, we bring it here like this. Because the order of the notes doesn't really matter. What matters is which note is at the bottom. Bottom is the low end. Top is this high end. So the note that is at the bottom is the one that matters now. Whether I do this and then I do that, I can even mute this. As long as this is at the bottom, it's what matters. So this is C over E. So at the bottom, after the slash, C over E. If they want you to begin with G, they will still be specific. So for example, I can do this. Yeah, that is a C over G. So it can be C over E, or C over E, or G over, C over E. If I want it small, I use this G. If I want it fat, big, heavy, I put this one here. And normally that's normally when we use inversions, that is a kind of effect that we want to create. So like that. And that is how we name them. So we name the chord first and then we put the note, the one that is supposed to be at the base or at the bottom. So that is how we use it. So I was using some slash chords or chord inversions. For example, I used this chord. This chord is D over F sharp. So the chord name comes first, D over F sharp. So that the F sharp note is at the bottom. And so sometimes you can play this D chord and just use the thumb over here. But that is if you've already mastered, chord formation and chord flow. So if your fingers are already like they are not struggling making the chords familiar, because the purpose of putting this thumb behind when we are learning chords is to make firm firm notes. But when you finally develop strength here, you can say I can even play the D chord without this, so I can now use it whenever I want some like over chords, yeah, instead of this. Because I may want to use these fingers down here for something else. So I use the thumb sometimes. So other than the triad, we're going to look at a tetrad. And like I said before, a tetrad is a 4-note chord, and they are normally 7th chords. Do not mistake or confuse yourself by thinking that because this chord has 1, 2, 3, 4 notes that it's a tetrad. No. This is just a repetition of the same notes. Okay, so we just keep layering them until we form like a chord with many notes. Even if we had a 12-string guitar, the C chord will remain a C chord even if you play 20 notes, even if you double, yeah, it would still stay C. But what makes the C chord a tetrad is adding an extra note which adds a different flavor and color. Now we have the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. So that's what makes it a tetrad, a 4-note chord, right? Even if it's a minor chord. Oh. Like that. Or we also have dominant 7 chords. So when it comes to 7th chords, we have major 7th, we have minor 7th, we have dominant 7th, we have diminished chords, and many more. But today we're going to look at some examples of inversions in this open position, and we're going to look at the C chord, the C major 7, and then a few other examples like the G7 chord. We're going to look at the D7 chord and all those other like the inversions. So for example, let's first look at the C major 7th chord. So what we do to make the C major chord a 7th is we add the 7th note, which is B. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The leading tone is what we call the 7th note. It leads us back to the tonic, right? So it's what resolves, it has that tension. Seventh chord will have the root position, first inversion, second inversion, and then the third inversion. Yeah. So the third inversion is the 7th note to create the third inversion. Triads have 2 inversions, 3 chords. Tetrads have 3 inversions, 4 chords, like that. So we're going to look at examples. We're going to invert some chords here. We're going to look at the G7 chord. So we have the G7 chord here in root position, in open position. We're going to hold. So the G7, we have G, B, D, G, B. So this F note, F7. So that is how we play the G7 root position. Now, to our normal inversions, we just simply add that 7th is already there. So root position, first inversion, second inversion, and then we can add third inversion where we can put this F in the root. Yeah, here, there. So we have root, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion for dominant 7 chords. So that is G7. Then we're going to also look at the D7 chord. So we have D7 here, starting with the root, D, A, and here is the 7th note, C natural. In first inversion, we're going to have that. Have first inversion as where I have the third here in the root for the D7 chord, first inversion. Then we're going to have the second inversion where we start from the, so this one we play all the notes because we have the third, fifth, root, the 7th note is still there. So we double notes to make it even more, So that is the D7 chord, first inversion. Second inversion, we're going to play it here, but we're going to start with this in the fifth, in the root. Because this is the fifth. So for the third inversion, I'm going to hold it like this. I'm going to have the 7 in the root, which is C here. So that is one way you can hold it. Bring the F sharp here, or you can just make a short bar here, have the 5th and 7th here being held by that, then have this like that. That is also another possible one. So you can do that. These two here, A and F sharp, then C and like that. So we have this. We have that. Sorry. Then we have this. Then we have that. Or that. Whichever is easier and better for you. Things like that. So we mix them up. So that's why it's critical that we learn inversions both as triads or as major chords and as 7th chords. So that is just a sneak peek into inversion. So when you're working on inversions, try to invert all the chords. Try to invert triads, invert those different 7th chords, and see the different alternatives that you have that you can use to play those chord inversions. So next, what are the different uses of inversions? Why should we learn inversions? What is their importance? Let's look at it. But before we do so, please remember to subscribe in case you haven't subscribed. Like our videos, hit the notification so you can always be notified in case I post new videos. And for those that have subscribed, thank you so much. And also, if you want to have physical lessons, that is mainly for people that are within and around Uganda. You want to have physical one-on-one lessons, my contact information is right here. If you have a child and they are at school and you want them to have holiday lessons, you can book in advance before the holidays such that you get first priority when I'm scheduling in my students. And also, if you're limited by physical access to lessons, We can arrange an online lesson for you. Inversions have different colors. Each chord of that, each image of the chord has a different color and tone. For example, here the root or they have different colors and tones and give the chord a sort of variety and a nice taste. Yeah, so that is one of the uses of inversion. So they have each of them has different color and they give the music, like they give the music some motion, they give it color and those dynamics. Another thing about chord inversions, they create an interesting bass line. So for example, I'm moving from C and I'm going to A minor. So if I'm moving from C, so there's something on the journey. And I remember we've talked about adding color to chords, taking our listeners on a journey. So we are taking them to a place called A minor. And we want to add some interest. On the way, we need to give them a refreshment. So we have... So we pass somewhere to have a refreshment. So C, and this is G over, but this is G over B. So it's a B note at the bottom. And because it has this kind of motion downwards, a descending feel, so it enhances the bass line, which would have been becomes then. Now for example, I'm in G, I want to go to A minor, G, but now I want to create even a more interesting bass line. See, even coming back becomes more interesting. That bass line is dynamic, it's beautiful. So I can even now go from G to E minor to C to A minor. Now I'm going to use bass line. So I'm going to start from G, I'm going to A minor, so I'm putting that motion. So now from G, yeah. Another role of inversions is this. So it gives the different players in a band. So sometimes you find that you have to play in a band setting. We have the drummer, we have the bassist, we have the acoustic guy, we have the piano, we have the first electric guitar, we have the lead guitar, and then we have maybe other instruments, recorder, flutes, saxophones, and all those things in a band. And you want to create space in a mix. So in music, we have what we call a music spectrum, just like a rainbow. It has different colors. So you see it like this. So we have also what we call the hearing range. So we have, let's say, the human ear can be able to comfortably hear things from, let's say, 20 Hz to, like, let's say 20K. But of course, that reduces as you grow older. Probably so you can hear things comfortably, maybe up to 16K if your hearing is still really good. But now you come here in music, all those instruments that I've mentioned, and remember that drummer has the kick, they have those other instruments. It's literally a spectrum of its own. They have cymbals, they have hi-hats, all those things have different frequencies. So you don't all want to be playing in one space and clogging or creating mud. Sometimes we call it a muddy mix. So we want to place every instrument in its own space. For example, we start with the drum bass. They are playing probably the root. They are playing this, the third. So if it's a C chord, we are going to divide it. We have the bass. We're going to give them, let's say, the lowest note. Yeah, because that's what they need. We're going to give them the bass note. So that means as the acoustic guy, you may not necessarily have to play this in a band setting. Then we shall get, let's say, the guitar, the acoustic guy, and give them the root position. And then we shall get maybe the piano guy and give them they'll have the root probably in a higher, in a bit lower frequency range. And then also maybe on top start with this, with this first inversion. Or they'll also do a certain inversion but not as deep as this one. They'll probably do an inversion but not as much. Or they'll probably begin with a G at the bottom and then play the C chord on top. Then we have our electric guy, the rhythm guy. So we're going to give them probably also this part. So we have the bass here, we have the acoustic here, we have the guitar, the pianist playing here. So let's give them that order: bass, piano, then guitar man, acoustic, then let's say the rhythm guitar, or probably playing some power chords, okay, or some octaves, probably something like that, a bit more, mid-range there. Then we'll have our lead. Let's say we are playing in the same octave, not going really high this side. So we're going to give them, some small chords at some parts of the song. Then of course they are adding things like those, or sometimes playing the melody. And things are going on, happening. So we are mixing as we play. So we don't want to clog the mix. So inversions create that kind. They give us an opportunity to split roles and give different people roles to play, other than trying to man it all up yourself. So that is another use of inversions. So they give each person, of each player of the band, a different space in the mix. The role of chord inversions is this. It's what we call voice leading. It's very crucial. It is very important. I can't emphasize enough the role or the use of voice leading. It makes playing so easy, so smooth, so good to the ear, and basically just simplifies your life. So the best way I can explain voice leading, I normally use this illustration when I'm talking to children, teaching them these things, because they are not easy things to deliver to such an audience. I use this example. Imagine you are sleepy, you are in bed, you are sleeping, and you feel uneasy, you want to use the bathroom, but you don't want to open your eyes. But then the challenge is this: you have to wake up, open the door to your bedroom, get out of the bedroom, get out of the living room, get out of the house, and even get out of the gate. And that's where the restrooms are located. Ease yourself and then walk into the gate, close the gate, open the door to the main house, close the door, enter the living room, open, close, enter your bedroom, open, close. By the time you're back in bed, you have lost your sleep. But imagine the convenience of having a bathroom right next to your bedroom or right inside your bedroom, like having a self-contained bedroom where you can wake up even while closing your eyes, go to the restrooms, use the restrooms, flush while closing your eyes, come back and enter bed. There's no way you can wake up. It's so comfortable, it's so smooth, it's so quick, it's so easy, it's so convenient. So that is what we call voice leading, that easiness of things. So when we play, for example, we want to play the G chord. We have the G chord. Imagine you have to play G, then you have to look for the E minor chord here, then you have to look for the C chord here, you have to look for the D minor chord here, then play the A minor chord here. All those chords in different positions, some are this side, some are this shape, becomes so uncomfortable and uneasy. But imagine you're playing the G chord and you want to play the D chord and it's right here. Literally, there's little or no movement. You go to E minor, the next chord is right there, B over G. Instead of going back to G, because you're already here, instead of going back this side, you have just this here. Imagine now you have here, you have to look for the D7 chord this side, but it's already here. Next things. So voice leading does that. G, D over F sharp. It may look easy or simple if you have to, change chords. They are not that far, or even if you have to do this, if you have to do this. How many chords? 1, 2, 3, 4 chords. That may be easy, and you're like, oh well, I don't really need that. But when you have to play more chords, like you have to play 7th chords, let's say we have what we call dominant 7 chords, we have secondary dominants, and all those chords come in. For example, I may want to play, let's say if I want to play G, I play A minor, I play D, I play C, I go back to G, and then now I have to use secondary dominant chords. Then I add the 2, 5, 1, things like those, and I have, let's say G, I'm going to A minor, but I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to play that. Then maybe if I want to do that 2, 5, 1, so I'm going to find myself G, B minor, it's G, let's say G, because I'm using 2, 5, 1, and I'm also maybe mixing with secondary dominants. I have that, I have B minor 7, I have E7, then I have A minor. Then I also want to do that 2, 5, 2, 5, 1, things like those. Where and the beat is like ta, 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 like in jazz, where things are moving a bit fast, the chord changes are so many, and you're the rhythm guy, you're going to get so frustrated, and you're going to feel like this is the hardest, most difficult genre I have ever seen. But if you learn your voice leading, you realize that it will be hard, it will be so easy. Sometimes you may find yourself, instead of you don't have to hold complicated chords, but because of these inversions, they make reconnecting to other chords so easy. It makes playing so easy and so cool. So you want to learn inversions on all the chords that you learn. So for example, we've looked at the triads. The triads, you want to try it. We've looked at seventh chords, dominant seven chords. You want to try it as well. You want to learn those chords in inversions like that. Everything such that when it's time for you to play, it is so easy and yeah, it's so easy and convenient for you to play. So that is it about chord inversions. So once again, remember that if you have any music needs, you need to purchase an instrument like the guitar, drums, keyboards. You want to purchase accessories like strings, cables, capo, and many other combos, effects pedals, so many things, anything music related. Contact me. You want to start learning, you want to purchase your first guitar, you need help, you need someone to advise you, you need to know where to buy, how much, and all those details, do contact me. You can also check out my other courses. I also teach the guitar and the recorder and music theory. So currently I have 2 courses running on this platform. I have uh, piano lessons and guitar, of which sometimes I chip in some music theory. And then I also have the recorder, which will be coming soon. And then, of course, I will also probably next year, 2026, I'm also working on an electric guitar course for lead guitarists, rhythm guitarists, rock, blues, jazz, and all those things are coming. So stick around, keep watching, have fun. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson.